with Intention, podcast where we bring you stories from around the globe. Hello and welcome back once again to Rise and Thrive Mornings with Intention. And today, oh my goodness, we have a beautiful guest with us. Proud to present four-time Olympian champion Ruben Gonzalez. So welcome, sir.
Eva Kremp, I'm so happy to be here. Oh, my first time to be interviewed from a Polish podcaster. That's awesome.
Oh, thank you so much. Please tell us about yourself. Tell us and dazzle us with all your magnificence. Where are you from? Where are you currently? And what are you up to at this point in
Sure.
time?
I was born in Argentina, and my family moved to the U.S. when I was 6 years old. And my dad was a chemical engineer. We lived in New York for a couple of years, then Houston, then Venezuela. Always following the oil business. Right back to Houston. And Houston is very hot. And so I could never get used to it. 15 years ago, I moved to Colorado. I live in Colorado Springs, and I love it here. It's 45 degrees this morning here, and four seasons. I'm an Olympic athlete. I did the luge, where you're sliding down the ice really fast on a little sled. I've done it. I'm the first person to do 4 Winter Olympics in 4 different decades. So Calgary, 1988, Albertville, France, 92. Salt Lake City, 2002, and Vancouver, 2010. And by Vancouver, I was so old, everybody thought I was a coach. But too many people use their age as an excuse, right? I'm not old enough, or then they say I'm too old. So
Yeah.
no, don't make an excuse. Just follow your dream.
Yeah.
I'm an author. I've written 6 books, and check this out. This is my latest one. This is the shortcut, right? But look at this. See, it's been translated to Polish, right? I mean, it's so
Polish.
cool. Yes. And so this is a audio, but many years ago, this book, The Courage to Succeed, was translated, and and I got this call from Warsaw, and this man said, "We have a leadership conference coming up. I just read your book. I love it. I didn't even know I had a Polish book, okay?"
Wow.
But because I listened to my mentor, right, it opened up the doors, and to get to go with my family to Poland and visit, and it was great. So yeah, and I'm
That's
a speaker. Been speaking professionally full time for 22 years, and here's what I did with my daughter. See, it's dream, struggle, victory. And we interviewed 50 Olympic athletes and asked them, how did you get your dream? How did you overcome your struggle? And what did it feel like when you made the victory? And that was Gabriella. It was her idea when she was 9 years old. So
wow.
it was a nice project with my daughter.
Wow, that is so amazing. Wow, congratulations. Oh my goodness. And I have to read the Polish version and I'll tell my Polish friends about it too. And of course, they know you now since you've been in so what was your favorite part of Poland? Tell us. What did you
Well,
visit?
we went to Warsaw for 4 days. You fly into oh my gosh, golly, Frederick Chopin Airport, right? Because he was a
Yep.
great pianist, and
Yeah.
people in Poland they love that, right? And it's funny, you go to the middle of the street, and Poland has been completely rebuilt. Okay, I had been to other Eastern Bloc countries, and they're gray and torn down, and they never got over the war. But Poland has been totally rebuilt, and the people are so nice. They love Americans there because everybody has an uncle or an aunt in Chicago. Chicago is actually the second biggest Polish population after Warsaw. It's crazy.
Yeah, it
And
is.
and
Yeah.
the dollar is strong, right? So we felt, we could go to really nice hotels and really nice restaurants and pay very low price. Then we went to Krakow. I think I like Krakow even better. We were in the old city, and right next to the Nespresso, a little apartment right next to the Nespresso store, and wonderful. It was wonderful. I can't wait to
Yeah.
go back.
Oh, that's so nice to hear that. Yeah, it's there's so many places to visit there aside from those two major cities. So I hope you get to travel up to the ocean part too, Gdańsk.
Yeah, Gdansk.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's supposed to be
How do you
really
say
nice.
it?
Gdańsk.
Gdańsk.
Gdańsk? Yeah.
Gdańsk. Gdańsk. Ooh, that sounds cool.
Yeah, thank you. And I see
Excuse
you
me.
speak a little bit well, I don't know a little bit, but you speak Italian, German, Spanish, right? So you have lots of linguistic talents.
Yeah, I guess so. When we moved, I was 6 years old and I didn't know any English, but we always thought we would move back to Argentina once things got better, but they never get better. And but my mom always taught me Spanish, so I never lost my language. And sometimes I do presentations in Spanish in front of thousands of people, and they're amazed. They say, "We didn't know that we thought you lived in Argentina all your life because your Spanish is perfect." And
Yeah.
French, I took French in high school, and then the language of my sport, the language of luge, is German. So you pick up a few words here. I can get myself in trouble in German, but but I like languages because you can make more friends that way.
Yeah, it is true. Like when I was younger, at school they made us study Russian, but then they dropped that shortly after that. But I didn't really learn much. But then I came to Canada. I also didn't speak any English, so it was one of the hardest parts of my life coming to a country when you're a teenager. And don't know, I didn't know the language. I had to start all over, you could say. And then I wasn't really in for studying French or anything. I'm like, I just want to get by, just let me finish school. But then I lived in Italy for one year, so I was fluent in Italian long time ago.
Wow.
See, and they say if you don't use it, you lose it. And I kind of lost most of my Italian, unfortunately. So I wish I could speak, but I understand quite a bit, like, Ukrainian when people are talking, Ukrainian, Italian. Spanish
That's
because the Italian Spanish so similar, right?
yeah, yeah.
So I love the idea to be able to speak a lot, but I haven't been practicing much, so I lost a little bit touch there. But hey, it's never too late to start again practicing, right?
Well, you have a great personality, and that helps. I can tell you're a people person. So
Yeah, open-mindedness helps a lot too. But one thing I read something, and how is it that a Olympian champion like you does what you do, but you says you don't ski or skate? What's happening there?
you know what? When whenever people they assume that you, because you're an Olympic athlete, you're good at every sport, but we spend so much time on our sport that we're lousy at all the other sports, right? Because we don't practice. And so yeah, I can barely skate. I can't skate backwards. And skiing, I took a little bit, but I couldn't get skiing. There's too much stuff going on. I'm used to my sled. That's one thing goes forward, right? And hopefully it goes forward. Skis that can go different ways, and then you got the poles. We moved here to Colorado Springs about 15 years ago, and I bought a snowboard that had the Olympic logo on it, right? And I just put it in my office. And then my kids, when I was 50, my kids said, let's go learn how to do this. And so I learned how to snowboard at 50. And I liked it because it's just one thing and you can't twist your knees. I was always afraid to mess up my knees with the skiing. And so I learned how to snowboard at 50, but I only do blues and I would much rather be playing ping pong or pickleball or something like that. Soccer,
Yeah.
football.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried those sports too. The skiing when I was little, then when I was older a little bit. Skating, yeah, I'm not so great at it either. And then I tried snowboarding. Oh my goodness, like only bunny hills for me. Yeah, so as much as I want to try all these, some of it I'm like, ugh, it's yeah, too much
But
things
it's
going
good.
on, like you said, especially with the skiing. I was afraid to break my legs.
Yeah, yeah. But it's good that you try different things. Very few
Yeah.
people do that. We
Well,
were
see,
talking earlier. They're afraid to
yeah,
take risks. Most people.
yeah. See, in Canada, the winters are so long. I'm not really a winters person, to be honest with you. But I'm like, oh my goodness. So one year I was like, okay, you know what? Enough with don't like winter. Let's do something in winter that you might enjoy. So that's why I
Right.
went out and tried snowboarding, more skating. Skating is okay. I do like going off, outside, not so much indoors and enjoying the scenery and everything. But I'm like, I tried first year, I tried second, and I was like, just winter just doesn't work for me as much as summertime and stuff like that. But that's okay. At least I tried, right? So,
Yeah. For most people,
yeah.
they play life too safe and then they
Yeah.
regret it.
So another thing I was really fascinated with, with everything that you do. So it says Ruben ran with the balls in Pamplona, Spain. Tell me more about that. I've always wondered. You see it on TV, but you never get to talk to anybody in real life. So tell me, how was that experience?
So when I was a kid and when I was young, I read a lot of Hemingway's books, right? Ernest Hemingway. And
Yeah.
in one of them, he talks about Pamplona, right? It's a town up in the Pyrenees, close to France, and how they run with the bulls. And he has another one that's called The Snows of Kilimanjaro, right? And so he put I blame Ernest Hemingway for putting these ideas in my head. So I always wanted to do it. I thought that looks really cool. So so I went, but before I went to Pamplona, I read three books, right, about it. And one of the books was written by somebody who had run it for 20 years. He was an expert. And so I called him up, right? And here's a tip, okay? If you're listening to this, if you read a book that you really like, call the author. Go to their website and call them up because they've usually been most entrepreneurs and most authors, people that are super focused on one thing, they were always the oddball, the misfit in the family and among the friends, right? Because they're not, I'm just going to get a job in 9 to 5 and not take a risk. They're wired differently, and so they're kind of lonely. And when you call them up, because nobody ever understood them. And you say, man, I just read your book. I love it. I mean, can I ask you a couple of questions? And they're excited just to get to talk to somebody that likes what they like, right? I
Yeah.
mean, so you're
Yeah.
actually doing something nice for them. And so I told them, look, I'm going to Pamplona. I need a few tips, a little bit of coaching because I want to have the experience, but I don't want any extra holes in my body, okay, from the bull's horns.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh
He
my
gave
God.
me a handful of very simple things that I never would have thought of that potentially saved my life. I mean, I'll just give you a couple of them. He says, the bulls are short-sighted, right? They don't see far. They just see close. And so he says, if you fall down, they stay down. They think you're a boulder. They think you're a rock, and they just hop over you. But if you stand up, boom, right? He says, you wear all white, and you have the red bandana and the red sash, right, on the
Yeah.
waist.
Yeah.
And so he says, don't double knot the sash because if you catch a horn in there, you're going to be hitting your head on the cobblestones the whole way. And he says, that's the worst way to see Spain.
Yeah.
And so he says, just do a slip knot, right? So you can, boom. He says, don't drink the night before. You got to be alert. And he said, watch out for the drunks because 90% of the people, they're drunk. Okay. They are liquid courage, right? And so he says,
Wow.
if anybody touches you, just make room. Okay. Don't let them because they will grab you and use you as a shield and just from the fear, and then you get the horn. And so little things like that and a couple more, but you always have to do, whenever you have a goal or a dream, you have to find the person who's already done it
Done it.
and then
Yeah.
just call them up and ask them, hey, can we get a cup of coffee? Can we talk on Zoom? Right? You can talk to
Yeah.
somebody across the world. He says, can you just give me some tips? I'm going to go do that. And I
Yeah.
climbed Kilimanjaro too a few years later too, because
Yeah.
Ernest Hemingway, you know.
And that's the next thing I was gonna talk to you about because I would love to do something at some point in my life still. So tell us about that experience because it always fascinating me. I think you're that's only second person I know who actually has done, but I have never had a chance to interview the other guy. But tell us about that experience. Like,
Sure.
wow.
Kilimanjaro is the most underestimated mountain in the world. It's a walk up. Okay. That means it's a trail that you walk up. You don't have to do much of this. Okay. It's not
Mm-hmm.
technical. It's about 40 miles and it takes 5 days of 8 to 10 hours every day. Okay. And you go through 5 ecosystems. You start at 5,000 feet and you end up like at 19,000 feet, or I forget, at almost 6,000 meters of height. Right. And so we hired a guide who had climbed it. He's climbed Mount Everest. He's climbed everything, and he's climbed Kilimanjaro maybe over 100 times. And so Kilimanjaro, you have to hire porters, right? The people are going to carry all your stuff. You don't have to use them, but you're going to have to pay for them, right? It's just a way to help the people that live there. And so they carry everything, and we just carried a little bag with our camera and our water bottle. But
Yeah.
we started at the jungles, and the last day we went through 5 different ecosystems. The last day we're in the glaciers and the ice. I mean, it was amazing. And then we turned back, and I've never been so tired in my life like the last day because we did 17 hours of climbing that day, and I've
Wow.
never been so tired. And there's only half as much oxygen at the top than at the bottom. And so it takes 5 days. And if you ever want to do this, I'll hook you up with my guide. Okay.
I'll be
Uh,
calling you. Don't worry.
yeah, please, because there's a scam. There's a scam for everything. There's these guys that know that say, oh, well, we'll save you, we'll charge you a little bit less, and we can do it in 3 days. Well, the only way you can climb Kilimanjaro in 3 days is if you were in the Himalayas last week, because you have the high altitude, many red blood cells in your body.
Yeah.
But nobody can do it, if you live at a normal altitude. And
Yeah.
so it takes 5 days because you have to acclimate. And there's a way we go up and come down and up and down. And it's a special system that helps you by the 5th day. By the 3rd day, we felt more fresh than the first day, even though our bodies were tired, but we were becoming stronger because of
Mm-hmm.
how he was getting us stronger. So yeah, got to do it the right way.
Got it. Yeah, exactly. I felt that when I was in Peru, from Lima when we flew into Cusco, I was sick for about I think 2 days with the elevation and everything. So
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't read much about that. I just like that was one of those things where I just booked last minute. Off I went to Peru. They're like, "Where are you going?" Peru. I was like,
Machu
"Oh,
Picchu.
okay."
Did you go to Machu Picchu?
Yeah, of course, and I
Wow.
almost didn't make it because it was over Easter holidays when I went, and I got there and they kind of messed up the reservation. They couldn't get me to Machu Picchu. I'm like, "Oh no, 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 no. I came all this way. I am
Good for
going
you.
there." She's like, "Whatever you have to do, I'll sit here in the lobby until you guys fix it." So they fixed
I
it.
love
And
it.
yeah, but I didn't do the climbing through there because I was on a holiday from work. I was a travel agent at that time. And my boss said, "Hey, you got to use up your holidays." I'm like, "What? Now?" As I spend the globe, I'm like, "I guess it is Peru." So that's how I ended up in Peru out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, a few things here and there. But yeah, I got to see it, and it was amazing. I would do it again because for me, it was such a majestic experience sitting on the top of the mountain there in Machu Picchu. And I met some fellow from UK, and we just sat there and pondered over the beauty and the feeling of that place was just so magnificent. Like it's hard to describe even.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I loved every minute of it. But yeah, the elevation and all that, you do have to prep a little bit. I unfortunately got sick, but I'm like, hey, there's no time to get sick. Get over it.
I
But it
like
was,
your style.
yeah,
So,
but it was great
so
experience. Yeah.
I'm gonna pull a couple of key things that you just said. Okay, people will tell you no. Okay, everybody, when somebody has low level people, they only have the power to say no. They don't have the power to say yes. So when you're trying to get to your dream and somebody tells you no, you just go to the higher level, to the person that has the power to say yes and be
Yeah.
willing to fight for your dream. This lady said you can't do it, and everybody said, "Man, like hell, I'm not doing it. I came to Peru. I'm going to Machu Picchu." So
Yeah.
and then you got sick, but you went anyways, right? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a fighting spirit. That's how a winner acts. So I love
That's
it.
right. Oh, come on. Like, you can't go all that way and not get to see it. Like, come on. And I love to go back one day, but I have so many things like I still would love to do. Like, one of them is Kilimanjaro. Like, I would love to take on the challenge. Like, I have a 5-year-old right now. I'm a single mom. But the thing is, like, when she's a little bit older, here we come, I'm gonna go out there more. And, now that she started school, I'm thinking, okay, in between here and there, or like, just because I have a kid now doesn't stop me from exploring this world.
Oh,
I'm still gonna do things, people are gonna be like, but I don't care. I'm gonna go for it.
I
I
like
always
it.
have, and that's why I was always the black sheep of the family until I said, no, I'm the white sheep of the family, and I'm gonna do things that really inspire me, even though they seem like they're just out of whack, you could say. But I like how you said it earlier, wired differently. I'm gonna use that from now on.
We are wired differently, you know.
Yeah.
I'm ADD, so it's a attention deficit disorder. They call it a disorder. Man, I think we're a higher life form. Okay, I'm not because we have so we get distracted easily and we get bored quickly, right? So we have to be ADD people. We have to always be challenged by something, and so, but when we find something that we are interested in, right, something we're passionate in, we have an extra level of super focus that normal people don't have. And that allows us to get tunnel vision and make big dreams like the Olympics happen. And
Yeah.
so, you can't, you have to be super focused, and part of focus is getting good at saying no to anything that will keep you from your dream. And I thank God that I have ADD. I read many biographies, everything since I was a little kid. And I actually listened to this podcast. It's called Founders, Founders podcast.com. It's this guy that he reads a biography every week, and mostly they're business ones, right? Because his audience are entrepreneurs and owners of businesses. That's why it's called Founders, because they're the founders of their. He's read over 370 of them, and during the podcast, he just tells the stories and the lessons. And he's done so many of them. Like, for example, if you're listening to one about Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? He might say, oh, see, when Arnold did this, it's just like when Thomas Edison did this. Oh, and it's like when Jeff Bezos did this. And so he connects the dots, and you start realizing that, wow, everybody started from nothing. Everybody had a struggle, but they refused to quit. They learned the lessons and they made it happen. And then you start realizing that they all use the same success principles. And so I love
Yeah.
listening to them because it makes me stronger. It makes me fight for my dreams strong.
Exactly. And speaking of the Olympics, I love what it says here. You were a torchbearer at the Salt Lake City Olympics, and the theme of that Salt Lake City was Light the Fire Within. Can you tell us more about that, please?
Wow. Listen, this is for the listeners. You guys have got a great host here with Eva because she does her homework. I'm a guest at many podcasts, okay? And but they usually don't do their homework like Eva did. So you guys are in a good place.
Well, you
So
inspire me. So all the things you've done, I'm like, oh my God. Like I kept digging. I'm like, oh, this is so inspiring because I used to watch the Olympics on TV and they did the torchbearer. And then when I read that, I'm like, I need him to talk about that. Light the fire from within. I absolutely love that phrase.
sure. So that was the Salt Lake City Olympics, and in 2002. And so they light the flame in Greece, right? In Mount Olympia in Greece. And then they put it in two little lamps, right? So you have a
Yeah.
backup. If this one goes out, then you still have this one, and then you relight it, right?
Yeah.
They flew it to Atlanta, Georgia, because that's the last place when they'd had the Olympics in the United States in 1996. And then 10,500 people got to run with it through all the different states of the United States. So just to get people excited. And then the day of the opening ceremonies, they come in and they light the big cauldron, right? The big flame that's going to be lit up for those 2 weeks, right? And so they called me up. The Olympics, the Winter Olympics are always in February. And they called me up and they said, and out of those 10,000 runners, only 200 were going to be Olympic athletes because they wanted all people to be involved, right? Teachers, architects, doctors, right? And so when they called me, they said, you've been selected to carry the torch. And I thought, me? Why? I've never even been close to winning a medal. How come you chose me? And it says, because we saw your story and we love how your story is so inspiring. And our motto is light the fire within, right? So light the fire in other people's hearts so they will chase their dreams, right? And live a great life. And we love what you represent and it fits. I said, great. So when's it coming through Houston, right? Because I lived in Houston then. And she said, December 5th. I said, oh, December 5th, man, I can't make it. I'm in Innsbruck, Austria. I have a World Cup race that week because I'm still trying to qualify for the Olympics. But I'll be back in January. Now comes the part like you and Machu Picchu. Wait till you hear. I'll be back in January. I'll go anywhere in January. I'll go to Alaska. I'll walk to Alaska. Just take care of the torch. And
Oh
the
my
lady
God.
said, okay, wait a minute. Let me check. She leaves. She comes back and she says, okay, Kansas City, January 9th. Can you do it? I said, done. And so I went to Kansas City and I
Wow.
ran it there. And so it was so exciting. You run for about a quarter of a mile. And so here you see, it was nighttime when I ran it. And there's people on both sides of the street and they all got the flags and they're going crazy. USA, USA, shooting
Yeah.
pictures like a bunch of paparazzis. And then you way over there, you can see the flame is coming. I got my torch here. I'm getting all excited. And you light it up and a little high five. And I turn around and I I ran like a little old man. I went as slow as I could to make it last, right? It took me like
Oh,
10 minutes to walk quarter of a mile, like one lap around the track. I took it as slow. And you're supposed to carry it in your right hand. They have all these rules. But my arm started to get tired, right? And so
oh
I
no.
said, heck with the rules. I just switched hands. I said, I don't want the paper tomorrow to say Olympics canceled. Ruben dropped the torch.
Oh my God. Oh, I love that. That is wow. I love
Yeah,
that
fight for
inspiration.
that dream. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, that's why I'm like, no, he's got to share the story here. And talk about stories. I love that you and Jack Canfield. I used to read his books. I used to be somebody when I finished my world tour in 2011. I wanted to write my travel stories and stuff like that, but I was just some kid in libraries and bookstores, just browsing through these things. And then so Jack Canfield, I started reading some of his, and of course many other authors, right? So um I see you have his stories in his book. So tell me more about that.
So can you tell me real quick about your world tour? What was that about?
Well, that was one of my things that I just signed up for. And back then I used to be married. And I asked my husband, I was like, hey, is it okay if I just, go tour the world in cruise ship? He's like, yeah, yeah, sure. But he didn't think I was serious. But I was, and I applied for it, and I got the job, and I had to fly over to UK. So I was like one of those people that and my friends are like, "Are you okay? Are you sure you know what you're doing? Where you going?" Because nobody here really applies for a cruise ship, gets a job, and goes. It's more popular in Europe and US, but not so much
Uh,
in Canada. I was the only one who I knew that researched it, applied, and got in. So then off I was on the plane to Air Canada to UK. I didn't know what I was going got myself into. I landed there, went to Bristol, had to do 4 days of training. They made me jump off the highest diving board into the pool because we couldn't do it at the sea that day, just to pass the test to get on the cruise ship. And I've never done that in my life. I didn't know what it was about. I'm like, I gotta do it. If I'm gonna go, I gotta do it. So I
got to
jumped.
pay the price, right?
Yeah, I was like,
You got to
holy,
pay the price, and it's worth
yeah,
it. It's
yeah,
always
it
worth it.
was. Yeah. So I did it. I passed that part. Then I had to get my butt onto the raft in the thing. Well, that was the hardest part because I'm
Oh,
like,
we had
it
to
looks
swim to
easy.
it.
It is not easy. I was
Did it
like,
flip
this
on
girl
you?
had no muscles back then.
So how long were you on the cruise ship?
So I was on the cruise ship for 8 months. So it was like you're technically under the Navy for all the rules and stuff like that. So I was under UK rules and regulations working on Cunard ship. So then I traveled the world and did 8 months. Some of it was painful because the water out of
Oh,
Bay of Biscay is brutal. My boss
oh,
on the ship says, if you can't handle it, go home. And we're like, nope, I'm good. And as we
sounds
were
tough.
puking behind the counters, basically
Oh
on the
my!
first week,
But it was an adventure, right? And you
it
probably met a
was
bunch of
worth
friends.
it.
New, sure, it always is.
Yeah,
People play life too safe. So what
yeah.
did you ask me? I already forgot. Oh, Jack Canfield. So when I was writing my first book, it's called The Courage to Succeed. And I've got 6 books, and if you want to buy two, the best ones, in my opinion, are The Courage to Succeed and The Shortcut. Those are the best that I like the best. But my mentor, he told me, and get this, okay, I went to a mentor when I started speaking professionally, right? And it was somebody who was a successful speaker making a lot of money, fruit on the trees. Okay. Your mentor has to have fruit on the trees. That means they did it. They've been through the minefield. They're not just a theorist that's gonna, never did it, but they're gonna tell you because they read it from a book, right?
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
he's been there, right? So this guy said, and he's kind of tough. I mean, really tough guy because I'm such a hardhead that I got to have a tough mentor to get through this hardhead. And so he said, the first thing out of his mouth, I don't care if you're a 10-time Olympian, unless you write a book, no one's going to take you seriously because the author is considered the authority of his subject. He wrote the book on it. And he kept going on. I told him, look, man, I can't write a book. I made C's in English. I mean, my parents celebrated if I brought a C in anything. And he said, you got a great story. Okay. You write it down like it's a letter to your best friend, that kind of English. Don't try to get fancy. And then we're going to give it to some A students, right? And they clean it up for you. That's just grammar. I thought, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I didn't think about that. See, my mind was putting together a very strong case on all the reasons why I couldn't be an author. But he
Yeah.
had been there already, and he says, that's a bunch of crap. Just just write this thing and then give it to some people that know grammar. They'll fix it for you and you're done. And so,
Yeah.
and that's how it is with Kilimanjaro. You can't do it by yourself. You hire somebody that's been there, right? And they teach you. And
Yeah.
so he said, okay, now I was finishing up the book. He says, okay, you need to go to Barnes and Nobles or see, I'm a reader. Okay. I'm constantly reading. That's just part of my book.
Wow.
So I'm a
That's
student
cool.
of success. And so I made a list. He says, you need some people to say some nice things about you, right? Some testimonials for your book. So I made a list of 100 authors that I wanted the testimonial. And I started going to all their websites and calling them up one by one. And out of the 100, I got about 20, right? But if I hadn't called them, I didn't fail, by not getting 80. I succeeded by getting 20, right? And 20 big
Yeah.
names. And you
Wow.
always call their office, and it's always the secretary, right? Or the assistant. You never talk to the real person. And when I called Chicken Soup for the Soul, which is Jack Canfield's business name, the lady, she says, oh, he's right here. And she handed him the phone. Now, she probably doesn't work for him anymore because you don't do that. But he got on the phone and kind of in a real serious, mean voice, he goes, you got 5 minutes. And we talked for 90 minutes. Okay. And
Wow.
yeah, just like we are, exactly
Yeah.
like this. We're just
Yeah.
chatting and telling stories to each other. And at the end, he says, look, I'm writing this book. It's called The Success Principles. Okay. And I'd like to put you in 3 places in the book. Would that be okay with you? I said, are you kidding me? Yes. And so he
Wow.
put me in 3 chapters, and many successful people read that book. It's almost a reference book. It's that thick, and it's not really a book you read from cover to cover. It's like an encyclopedia of success, right? So,
Yeah.
okay, I need team building. What does Jack say about that? Oh, leadership or whatever, right? And
Yeah.
so, anyways, I have gotten over the years many speaking engagements from like vice presidents of sales from big corporations who read my story in the book, went to my website, saw my video, and said, and now I'm speaking for them. So
Yeah.
thank God I listened to my mentor.
Wow. That is so amazing. I love that. Oh my God. Yeah. 5 minutes turned into 90 minutes.
Isn't that
See?
crazy?
So easy.
And I wasn't trying to be salesy or trying to use manipulative language. I hate that
You
stuff,
just
right?
clicked. Yeah.
I was just like us. We're just
Yeah.
talking like,
Yeah.
you know what it is? It's the passion. The
Yeah.
passion you and I have, that is what gets people so, whoa, I got to listen to this lady. I got to listen to this guy. If he's that
Yeah.
passionate, must be something to this.
Yeah,
It's,
exactly. So
yeah,
you've
it
been to
goes
over
right into the
50
heart.
countries.
I've been to 50 countries. Yeah.
Yeah.
Between speaking professionally and my sports. And I traveled a bit with my parents too when I was little. Been to 50 countries. I love traveling like you, you
Yeah.
know.
Oh my God.
Um,
I don't just love it. I upgraded to a new word called addiction.
I've got a
I
friend
used
that
to,
lives in
yeah.
Denver, about 50 miles from me. He's got 75 countries. He said, if you want
Wow.
to really add a bunch of countries to your list, he said, what you do is, and I don't know that I'll do this because I like to spend a little time in the country and get to know the people. But he says you can take a cruise ship from the Southern Antilles, right, the southern part of the Caribbean, and you can hit 10 countries because every island is a different country. You can add 10 just right there,
Yeah,
you know.
pretty
Um,
much.
but
Yeah.
I'm not after the number. I'm after the experience and meeting
Yeah.
people and seeing.
So would you say you have like favorite place, or so somebody asked me that question too. I was like, well, it depends what it is. If we're looking for cultural, I might have one. If we're looking for experience or something majestic, I'll have another one. So like, do you have a favorite place? Because I've also been to over 50 countries, but I still can't put
Oh,
my
really?
finger on where, like Cayman Islands for relaxation, maybe. But then I
Uh-huh.
love Europe because it has so much character, you know? So
Ah,
do you have a favorite place?
okay. Now you already know I love Poland. Okay, I mean because we had such a great time. I really do. Um, if somebody told me you were going to go to one country to visit in Europe, Poland. I mean one city. I love Barcelona. Barcelona,
Oh,
Spain.
yes.
Oh my gosh, that the I don't know if you've been to La
Yeah.
Sagrada Familia, that church.
I've been
It's
to, I've been to Barcelona. I don't remember all the names of the places I visited. Some of them, yeah, it's
Ronda, you know, that big street where you just walk, and there's this church that's been being built by Gaudi for over 100 years. Okay, and it's worth flying to Barcelona to spend 2 hours in this church because it's the most amazing thing I've ever seen, and flying back. I mean, it's that good.
um,
And the food, I like the food, and I'm
oh, of
Latin. I like the
course.
um, if I want to eat meat, boy, Argentina. You got to go to Argentina. We have so much great beef and
It's on my
uh,
bucket list,
is it
Argentina. I
really?
want to go back
Wow.
to that part of the world, Brazil. I've always wanted to do hang gliding somewhere in Brazil, and
Oh,
then
wow.
even Argentina. I was looking at that
Yeah.
strip there, so yeah, you
Yeah. The
never
nice
know.
thing about South America, if you live in US or Canada, is you fly, but there's no jet lag because you're really close in hours. If you fly to Europe or to Asia, it takes you a couple of days to get used to it, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
um another city that I really like is Stockholm. It's an archipelago
yeah.
in Sweden, and it's beautiful, right? But it's very expensive, but beautiful to see. Yeah, South
Wow.
Africa is nice. I mean, I went to I had to speak for a group down in South Africa, and the guy that I became friends with, the guy that brought me in. He was the owner of this big insurance company down there. He took me to a gold mine, like 1,000 feet down under the ground, and you know, I got to see how they work, how they do all this stuff. And then we went on a safari, right? Safari, like camera safari,
Oh,
right? But we stayed the night over there. It wasn't just
yeah,
a day. It was awesome. So yeah,
yeah.
you said, there's different things everywhere, and
Yeah. So you did something I also did. I did mine in Hawaii. You did yours in South Africa. You jumped out of the plane.
uh,
Yeah, how
yeah.
was
Did you
that
do
experience
tandem?
for you?
Did you do tandem?
I did tandem in Hawaii.
Yeah,
We were supposed
that's
to do it
enough.
in Australia, I think, but we did it in Hawaii. How did you find that experience?
So when I loved it, oh my gosh, that was the most fun I ever had in my life, and my mouth has never been so dry because you have all that wind, right? But on the flight to South Africa for that speaking engagement, that's a long flight. Okay, I mean, we flew to Senegal to refuel and down to Johannesburg. And I thought, skydiving in South Africa, that has a nice ring to it. I might be able to use that from stage, right?
Yeah,
And so when I made friends with this guy that booked me, I told him, look, I'm going to be here a few days. And I really liked his kids. He had like an 8-year-old kid and a 10-year-old kid. And we were just, you know, I like kids. And I told him, look, I want to skydive in South Africa. How about I speak for your kids for their school, and in return you buy me the skydiving? He says, sure, piece of cake. So there's always a way, right? You have to get
yeah, yeah,
creative,
yeah,
and so when you're up there, you know, it's a tandem, right? And this is, I know you know this. I'm telling this for the audience, right?
yeah,
So you're attached to somebody else, and now you're in front, right? You're kneeling in front of this door, and man, it's just air down there, right? And if it was a single jump, I would still be kneeling there because I was petrified. I was so scared. And then and there's this guy that climbed on the side because there's a place where he can hold on. He's got a camera, and so he's filming me, right? And
yeah.
I'm so like this. And the guy behind me, he grabs my hand and he goes, "Look at the camera."
Oh
And
my
then boom,
God.
he gave me a push, right? And from the moment that we started flying, that was the most amazing, most fun thing in the world, right? And
Yeah,
and so we drop, and then the cameraman, he goes zoom straight to catch us, right? And then he
yeah,
gets right in front of us like this, and then he goes below, right? So to wait for us when we're gonna land. Now, when we opened up the parachute, it went from the most exciting thing in the world to the most boring thing in the world. It took forever. It's like, oh, okay, okay. And then we just landed. But it was
that's so
great. I
funny.
loved it.
Yeah,
I
I
love
had yeah, similar experience because I think maybe one of the second last to go, and by that time the fear was getting a big part of me. I'm like, oh no, what the hell have I, what did I sign up for? And then it's
uh-huh.
like there was no time to think. It's like out the door. I'm like, and then yeah, I don't think my face has seen that many things, things that face did, I never thought it was possible when you were flying down and taking all those pictures because it was the same thing, the cameraman and all that.
That was great.
But and
So
then
I didn't tell anyone. And so when I came back, I had the DVD with the video and the right. And so I said to my dad and my family, I just said, "Okay, guys, sit down, watch this." And I put it in, and they were they didn't talk to me for like 2 days. They says, "What are we gonna do if you die?"
oh my goodness. Yeah, speaking of that, as I was driving to the pad there, they make you sign this letter. It's like you may die today. I'm like, we're just looked at it. I'm like, oh well. It's like, "Well,
At least it'll
continue
be
our
fun.
journey. Thanks for
Hey, if you're
scaring
gonna
us."
die having fun, right?
Yeah, but it was at the same time when we were gliding this, like when once the parachute opens, I think it was one of those moments where it was like you didn't think it would that still being up there in that air. Once it
Yeah,
opened, you
yeah. It was
leveled and
very
you're gliding,
peaceful,
that boring part you
peaceful,
said.
and quiet. Yeah, for me, it was like,
Yeah, but it was like at the same time it was so like so weightless, so like you're just embracing Earth because you could see
yeah.
that curvature almost in
And
Hawaii.
you were in Hawaii. You had nice things to look at. Ours was like South African farmland. It was pretty flat. It was
Okay, well that makes a
and
difference, big
yeah,
difference.
sure it does. If we had been in what's the other place called? The other big city in South Africa. It's the one that's beautiful. It has the cliffs right on the water. That would have been, I think I would have enjoyed the
Yeah,
view.
yeah, you got to do it again, right?
Yeah, yeah. Except this
Sure.
time I won't tell anybody that afterwards.
Oh my God. But yeah, it was also one of my experiences I really, really enjoyed on my travels. But I really like what you're doing in the third world countries with the building the libraries. It's a passion of mine to also do similar things in the future. I started writing children's stories for some kids in Africa. But tell me
Huh.
more about building those libraries. How is that experience for you?
So
What prompts you to do that?
books changed my life, okay, and they still do. And I'm reading Arnold Schwarzenegger's story now. That's a great one. It's like 600 pages long, but it it's an autobiography. It's like he's telling me the story, right? It's very easy English, but I can almost hear him saying, "And then this is what I did next," with his voice. But um, I read, I've been reading books all my life, and they opened up my mind to possibilities and things that you can do. And then there's so many adventures in the world. And then I started reading, books about personal development. So I would believe more in myself. And I grew, right? I grew as a person to where I was able to willing to take more risks, right? That most people won't take the risks, but I had grown as a person. I was taking more risks, and life started to become really fun, right? Starting to do a lot
Yeah.
of these things we've been talking about. And so I have another mentor. I have many mentors because I'm always wanting to learn, right? I mean, when I'm 95 years old, I'm still going to be wanting to learn, right? Because I'm like a sponge. I'm curious. And so I asked him because he had done a lot of work, with people in Africa and poverty and things like that. And I asked him, what do you think is the most effective way to help people? Because there's people that say, buy water wells and or maybe give money to an orphanage or different things. And he says, man, education, reading books, right? The more we can get people to read, then they will grow just like you did. And instead of not doing anything with their lives, they will grow, and they might be the first person in their family to go to high school and maybe even college. And then they come back and help their country. So he says, education, that's the key. And so I found that there was this organization called Room to Read. Room to Read. And what they do is they build little bitty libraries, or just one room, right? Like my office, right? And so what you do is you donate money to buy the materials, right? And then they go and they take the village people, they do the work, so they are invested in it, and then they fill it up with books, and so all of a sudden it's a little village that didn't have a library, and now it does. And so over the years I've built five, I think, in five different countries, and I've never been to visit them, but I know that there's lives that are being changed.
Wow.
because of that. So
I
when I
love that.
sell most of my income comes from speaking professionally, and only a little bit comes from the books. So whenever I sell books, that money goes to Room to Read, so that we can build more libraries and
Wow.
help people. That's what.
Exactly. And knowledge is important, and it's important to expand. Like even myself, I didn't read a lot when I was growing up, but when I went into personal development like 3 years ago, I think I read more books in that 1 year than my whole entire life. Like went from one reader to the next one to Tony Robbins to whatever, Jack Canfield, you name it, right? And it is so true. Like it makes you look at things from a different point of view. Like I met Dr. Wayne Dyer in 2012 in Vancouver, and I remember that quote he had: "When you change the way you look at things, things change." And I love that quote. It stuck with me for
I
many
like
years,
that.
but I never really looked at it much until I really took it to heart.
When you
So,
change the way you look
uh,
at things,
yeah, the things you look at change. So
I
I
love
love
it.
this. Yeah.
I always post. I always post quotes right online. I'm sure you see them all the time. I'm
Yes,
going to
yeah.
put
And
that
you
one
have
in there. I'm going
some,
to look it up and I'm going to put it up today. See, I
uh,
just learned something today. I love it.
yeah,
And
and yeah, it's such an
so
inspiration. Yeah.
yeah, and you know, once in a while you'll run into somebody that they graduate from high school and that's as far as they're going to go. And this, I'm not saying everybody's like this, but some people are very small-minded, right? They graduate from high school and they promise, they vow, they say, "That's it. I'm never reading another book in my life." And they think that they're being smart, and I'm thinking you're such a fool. Because they that means, you know 30 years from now he's still going to have high school mentality, right?
Yeah.
And but if you're constantly reading and learning and going to seminars and listening to audios now with Audible, man, even if you don't like to read, you can just listen to
You
it.
just listen. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you grow, you get, and the world becomes bigger, and you start
Yeah.
having more confidence in yourself. I mean, this. You're
Yeah, well, I'm learning just like everybody else, right? But I
Yeah.
love it. Like it's so funny because it's kind of you get addicted to it after a while. You just want to learn and learn and learn, and it just never stops. Even when you think you're done, you're not done. It never
Oh,
stops.
no, never.
So tell me, as an Olympian, and say somebody's listening there and they want to pursue their dreams, maybe they want to be a future Olympian. What advice would you give them? I know there's many, but what one key thing you could give them right now that would
The
propel them
simplest
to move
thing.
forward?
My dad, when I was little, and he knew that I had big dreams, but I needed to grow. Right. Um, when I was 12, he said, "Ruben, you like to read books. Why don't you read some biographies? Right? If you'll study the lives of great people, you'll figure out what works, what doesn't work in life, because success leaves clues. Right? You're going to learn from it." And another thing my dad said was, if you have to cross a minefield, right, a minefield, it makes sense to follow somebody that's already crossed it, right? But preferably somebody that's still walking. So he said
Yeah,
that was his funny way of saying, follow somebody that's done what you want to do. That's the easiest way to reach your goal. You just follow the leader. And so what do? You find a leader, right? And then you follow the leader, and then eventually you become the leader, right? And then you
exactly.
repeat, right? Because there's always another step, another higher level of leadership, and you just keep doing it for the rest of your life. I won't do anything without calling a mentor. I don't. And you know what? When I talk about this all the time from stage, and I always get I get pushback from people that says, "Oh, but those people, they're so busy. I don't want to impose. I don't want to bother them." And I explain to them, look, that you got to take that idea out of your head because it's hurting you. Okay, it's hurting you big time. Now let me explain it to you. You know how people say, "Oh, she's successful, but she's not happy," or "He's successful, but he's not satisfied. He's always looking for something else." We know why? Because everybody thinks that success is the gold medal, right, in the Olympics, but it's not. Success is the silver medal. Okay, the gold medal is called significance. That means you helped somebody else succeed. That means you made a difference. You created a ripple effect of success. The world is a better place because of you. That fills that little hole in your heart. And so when you, let's say you have a dream, and you're serious, right? That you're going to take action. You're not just going to go to learn how to do it, but not take action. Are you going to take action? Because action is the most important thing to successful people. Okay. That's the quality that they look for. It's like a test that they do with you. And so as long as your attitude is whatever they tell me to do, I'm going to do it, then you owe it to them. Okay. You're not imposing, owe it to them to contact them, because you will help them win the gold, right? They will help you win the silver, and you just might make a best friend. You will.
Yeah.
So you got to.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. Um, so any last word of advice on any of the topics we covered, and
Mamma
especially
mia. Yeah. We
I
talked,
know.
we talked about so many topics. I think my last word of advice is going to take 45 minutes. Okay. Are you ready?
Oh, okay,
No.
well,
No, but look, I never talked about this, but I'm not a great athlete. Okay. I'm not super fast. I'm not super strong. I'm not, I was always the last kid that they chose to play sports. Okay. Even for kickball, I was on the bench. I mean, I didn't even know they had a bench in kickball, but that's how it was. A big heart, but no body. All right. And so, and I went to 4 Olympics. I was a terrible student, and I've written 6 books, and they've sold over 350,000 copies around the world, and they've been translated to 10 different languages. I can barely spell. Okay. And I'm a shy guy. Believe it or not, I am an introvert by nature. I would rather be reading a book than talking to somebody. That's just the way I am. Right. And I'm a professional speaker. I mean, it's crazy. So if I can do those things coming from where I came from, imagine what you can do, right? And
mhm,
so, what are the chances somebody like me can make it to the Olympics even one time? You might think it's 1 in a million, but I got to tell you, it was inevitable. It was inevitable. I can't even say it. Inevitable 4 times, right?
yeah,
Because I had the dream, I had the passion. I looked for the coach, I followed the coach, and I refused to quit. And so, what are the chances you're going to make a dream come true? Well, as long as you want it badly enough and you approach something, find that coach, find that mentor, find that leader, and take massive action and refuse to quit, because it's going to be hard. Okay. It's going to be so hard. It will, but it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it. Right.
exactly.
And
It'll be
so if
worth
I
it
could
in
do
the
that,
end.
you guys could do anything. You really can.
Exactly. So the name of this podcast is Rise and Thrive, Mornings with Intention. So how important do you think is to set an intention in the morning for the day?
Oh, it's huge. And, and I think it's even a good thing to set the intention the night before, right? Because the night before, you're going to go to sleep. So you're more likely to put a big intention in the morning,
Yeah,
a little scary, right? If I make the intention now,
yeah,
right? So it's kind of like if your intention is, I'm going to go to the gym every day, Monday through Friday, every day, I'm going to go. And so, what's the smart thing to do? Well, you got to have your gym bag already packed the night before, and your shoes, right there next to the bed. So when you wake up, boom, everything is ready. So there's less less blocks, right? Less excuses to keep you from going to the gym. You got to make it easy. And so the intention is huge, and you want to start the day with a routine, right? Always start it with the same way, because it kind of gets you going. It creates that momentum. That first step is always the hard one, right? Because
yeah,
sleepy. My back is still kind of, I don't know if I'm gonna go to the gym today. No, you're gonna go, man. You got the bag right there. You got the shoes. You're already wearing your shorts and your t-shirt. You're already dressed up. All you got to do is put on your shoes. You even have your socks on, right?
yeah,
And so, and you start the same way, and it helps get things going, right? And in
exactly.
the morning, I write down before I turn on the laptop, before I check my emails, I have to write down my goal, right? And it's just very simple, right? It's not like a really short sentence. You don't have to, but just and you write it down, because picking up that pen and picking up that paper is an act of commitment, right? You have to do
Yes,
something,
that's
right? And
right.
you write it down, and that goes into your subconscious. And then I write down 3 things that I'm going to do today to get me closer to that dream, to that goal. And and then at the end of the day, I look at that piece of paper and I check them, right? Or they're already checked because I did them, and I know, okay, good day. It's a good day. I'm moving forward. Simple.
Wow.
Success is simple. It's not easy, It's going to take everything you got, but you got what it takes. If it's in your heart, you got what it takes, and it's going to be so worth it.
Wow.
Morning's Intention. I like it. I love the name of your show.
Thank you so much. And there you have it. This was truly amazing. Thank you, Ruben, for sharing all the wisdom you could in the 1 hour. I mean, there's so much more we could talk about. So hopefully we come on a podcast again soon. Um what is the best way for people to get in touch with? Of course, all the information will be posted here in this video. But also, what is the main page you want to direct people to get in
Yeah,
touch
you
with
know
you?
what? That one. See, RubenU.com. I was a
There
lousy
you go.
student, but I got my own university. How about that? RubenU.com. That's one page of my website. So when you go to the top, you can see. But I have a really cool online course that's featured there. But you can go up and you can see my videos, you can see my books, you can see all kinds of stuff. It's the
Yeah,
same
and that's
website.
how I got to
Yeah,
read more about you from that link right there. So there you have it. So thank you so much for everybody tuning in. Thank you, Ruben, for spending the time with us. I truly, truly loved it. So thank you so much, and I hope you guys have a beautiful day. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Ruben.
bye bye. Great being with you.
Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.